inshallah we are, and what we have to be. Wenyeji, we have to be people who belong to the society in which we live without losing our own identity. I'd just like to say one last thing, and that is to look at one of the negative aspects of culture in history, an aspect that in fact led to our genocide in Portugal and Spain, but which in this time we have to be very careful to avoid. And this is the culture of the Hidalgo, the Hidalgo. Don Quixote may be the best book that was ever written, an incredible book, is the story of Don Quixote, who is an Hidalgo. And although it's humorous, it tells you the reality of the Hidalgo, what the Hidalgo is capable of. It's a very meaningful book. And Don Quixote and Sancho, they represent the lower nobility and the underclass of the Castilians. Those two, when they came together, they destroyed everything in Spain. They destroyed Jews, Muslims, the middle class. Now, what was Hidalgo culture? Hidalgo culture developed over about 800 years. It begins at the time when Islam in Spain and Portugal was extremely strong, and when it was also very advanced. It was the light of civilization in the West. That's not an exaggeration. The Christians in the North, who dreamed of reconquering Spain or of conquering the Muslims, had an impossible task to do. There was no way in the early centuries that they could honestly believe that it would be possible to conquer Cordoba. So in this context, Hidalgo culture begins to develop. It is a counterculture. Not all countercultures are bad, but this one was very destructive. In Hidalgo culture, which has many different facets, the greatness of the Castilian, the warrior in the path of God, is that they are not something else. It is not really who they are. It is what they are not. So the Hidalgo is not a Jew. And the Hidalgo doesn't do anything that Jews do. He doesn't lend money. He's not a banker. He's not a physician. Because those were among the most important businesses of the Jews. And he's not a Muslim. So he is not a craftsman. He's not a farmer. He's not a builder. All the things that Muslims did in Spain, he won't do. He won't even pick up the garbage. And that's why if you look at Argentina, which was settled in the beginning almost completely by Hidalgos, they almost died in their own filth, because it was unbecoming of a Hidalgo to clean anything, to even pick up the garbage. They had to bring, they didn't have slaves, they couldn't get slaves to live there, and they had to bring other people, ultimately, who would build and who would clean. They wouldn't do that. This is also why Hidalgo culture was able to remove the Muslims when it got power completely, without blinking an eye. To remove the Muslims, to remove the Jews, and of course when the Hidalgos came to the Americas, then they did the same thing there. And again, not blinking an eye. The point of this is that we are in danger, in my opinion, of becoming Hidalgos. We are people, in some cases, for whom Islam is our identity, not our theology. It is an identity religion, and it often takes on a very negative aspect, that I am proud to be what I am not what I am. I'm not a kafir. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Jew. And of course, Muslims are proud to be who they are, but there cannot be a vacuum. They have to be people of substance. They have to be people who have something to do, to contribute. They must be people who walk with light and who are filled with light. We are at a critical moment in history. You believe in God, I believe in God. History, as Sidi Abdul Hakim Winter says, is in good hands. You did not come here for no reason. It was not simply a coincidence that you came here. You came here for a very good reason, for wisdom, for divine wisdom, the divine wisdom that rules the world. The same in the United States. So we have to, as the Sufis say, we have to have al-fahmu anillah. Understand, try to understand what God is doing. Why are you here? What is the purpose that you are meant to fulfill? At this moment, our culture will be created. And we, as human beings, are culture creators. We can't live without culture. Spiders can't live without webs. Spiders weave their webs. They don't have to be taught. We make culture. Consciously or unconsciously, we make culture. But what's very important is that the culture that we make not be a default culture, a culture that grows out of a vacuum of psychological maladjustment, of unfounded hatred, of alienation from a culture which may lead to that alienation, but which is essentially a negative culture. We have to create a culture which is dynamic and positive, that affirms who you are as a person who may be of Punjabi or of Kashmiri or of Bengali background, Bangladeshi background. That makes no difference. That's something to be proud of. That's got to be part of your subculture. You can't have a healthy culture without healthy subcultures.